Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I wanted to talk about a pretty basic question that I was wondering myself. Is whole milk healthy? We'll get into that in a second, but I want to remind everybody I'm not a doctor, I'm not a chemist, I'm not a nutritionist or a dietitian. I don't encourage the use of any supplements or medications, even if I talk about them or seemingly recommend them in a video. I don't. You should always go through your doctor and always get their opinion because they know you best. And for diet advice, obviously getting a registered dietitian on your team would be the most ideal. I know most of us don't really have that privilege, as well as the fact that sometimes doctors seem to have some outdated information, but for the most part, they're your best resource. And they're definitely going to be more knowledgeable than I am because they have to stay up to date on a lot of the scientific literature. So, is whole milk healthy? This is something that I thought the answer was pretty definitively no. It's not healthy because saturated fat. Sorry, I have something in my throat today. Saturated fat is one of the key factors for heart disease, especially when you have if you're eating 2,000 calories a day and you have over 20 grams of saturated fat per the 2,000 calorie diet, then you're increasing your risk of heart disease. At least that's what the recommendation always was from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Now, in recent years, they did more testing, longitudinal testing, so you do have to be wary of it because correlation does not equal causation. But there did not seem to be any difference between people who had skim milk or whole milk, and sometimes even people who had whole milk actually had better outcomes than people who had skim milk or 1%. This isn't to say saturated fat isn't bad, though, and this is the thing that I'm going to talk about in this video in more detail, is that saturated fat does still appear to be negatively impacting heart disease. So if you have red meat, fatty red meat, or a lot of butter in excess of over 20 grams of saturated fat a day, it does statistically increase your chance of getting heart disease and having poor cholesterol skew, aka increasing your LDL and lowering your HDL, or increasing your bad and lowering your good. And overall, that's obviously a negative. But the thing is, when they did more evaluations into whole milk and people who drink, like it through the years, the consumers of whole milk did not seem to have a severe increase in any sort of health-associated risks. And in one study, they actually seemed that people who drink whole milk were actually less likely to get type 2 diabetes. Again, a lot of the studies and data and evidence that I looked at is correlational. Is long-term studies, meaning that they looked at people in general trends over years. And oftentimes that means they have to do surveys or they just have to do people tracking their food. But it's important to know this because it's really hard to do even like 4 weeks of study on somebody for their HDL and LDL. Sometimes it just doesn't change because it's too short of a period. Some people are more reactive, obviously, but you need long-term data to support long-term conclusions. And for the most part, it seems that whole milk is actually pretty beneficial to health. Now, whole milk does seem to have a large amount of omega-3 fatty acids, which can help with overall heart health. Let me put these on. I'm going to be talking too close into the mic, which does seem to help with long-term heart health, but that's actually been disputed. A lot of cardiologists don't even recommend taking fish oil anymore, so it's important to stay up to date with your doctor. But for the most part, on all the research I found, people who drink whole milk versus other forms of milk have long-term healthier lives and longer lives. But I can't emphasize enough that this is longitudinal data for all or correlational data from what I saw. And the reason you don't always want to just straight up extrapolate that data and use it for you is, for all we know, all those people had terrible cholesterol skews. They all had to go on statins, and that's why they live so much longer. Granted, I'm sure that the studies excluded persons with statins, but you do have to take everything with some grace, everything with a grain of salt. So obviously you can talk to your physician about this. I'm less scared of whole milk now than I was before, especially because it does seem to have some health promoting effects from what I can see as the layman who likes to read studies because he's a nerd. But yeah, overall, I thought that was really cool, and I wanted to share that with people because for the longest time I've been kind of scared of whole milk, and I've been drinking skim milk and avoiding whole milk altogether. But I really like milk proteins, and so drinking skim milk was always my way of doing that. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. If you didn't, give it a dislike. If you want to subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for notifications when I make new videos, which is really random. But yeah, and that's pretty much going to be it for me. Thanks for tuning in.